Before processing in this evening, one of our youth, Charlie, asked me if I would meditate for very long. I told him that it was 250 words shorter than last year, so we should be fine. I'm not a particularly gifted preacher or musician, but I do have a somewhat critical mind, much to the annoyance of my family and friends, and some youth here as well. Now, this critical mind is often deeply misunderstood. For me, it's not about judgment or right or wrong, as much as it is about getting to the bottom, as much as I can, of an idea. I deeply desire to know, to understand, to integrate some new truth into my life. And the way this works itself out is through poking and prodding the beliefs that other people have. My critical nature has led some to be confused about how I view the world. I have been labeled a cynic, a pessimist from time to time, but I really don't identify with either of those perspectives. Some of you may not know, I am the oldest of 5 siblings. The other day on Facebook, my sister tagged me in an article with a headline that read, "Having a sister makes you happier and more optimistic about life." And she also left the comment, "You're welcome." Of course, my response to her was, "I think mine's broken." This is the same sister who, when I was about 10 and she was 8, got into a fight with me, and after I said to her, "Let's use our words to work this out," hit me instead. We worked through it, though, and we're pretty close today. We may not be after this, but... Not too many people have ever mistaken me for being a full-blown optimist, but the truth is, I walk the line somewhere between realist and cautious optimist. Part of that is because it's just in my nature. But part of it also has to do with my educational training and experience of the world. As a theologian, that's someone who studies about God, and a philosopher, someone who drinks a lot of beer, I've spent a great amount of time reading and arguing. In fact, when I started the process of writing tonight's meditation, the very first thing I did was engage the lessons that have just been read. The text from Isaiah stood out to me, but the more that I focused in on it, the longer and more obtuse my meditation became. There's so much to unpack in those 6 verses. And the truth is, we could spend a lifetime studying just that book of the Hebrew Bible. And some people do. So let me highlight one thing that stood out to me. Everything has a context. Everything is connected in often complicated and mysterious ways to everything else. In Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 to 6, we have this brief poem about peace, about the wolf lying down with the lamb, the leopard lying down with the kid, the calf, lion, and fatling hanging out all together, led by a child. What a remarkable vision of the future. But if you stand back for a moment and look at the context, and by that I mean the other chapters surrounding it, you see a different picture. Chapters 9 and 10 see both Israel and its adversaries judged for their wickedness and arrogance, And the rest of chapter 11 returns to the theme of the destruction of Israel's enemies. Surrounded by this poem, this idea of a better way of being, is the oft-felt hopelessness of the world we actually live in. There was a moment in graduate school many years ago when I realized that my critical mind was only able to reveal a small glimpse of the truth that I seek. I had to learn how to become reflective, how to spend time listening to my feelings and the feelings of others, how to listen and to honor the deeply varied experiences of people around me. Reflection is hard. It opens us up to ambiguity and reduces our ability to rely on certitude, knowing the truth. Self-reflection forces us to open up to the very real possibility that our own individual ways of seeing the world are not the only way to see the world. This is obvious. And yet we have become experts at creating economic, political, and social worlds that benefit us at great cost to many others. We do this on large system levels, and we do it on the personal level too. We live in a culture that is obsessed with instant gratification and the accumulation of things. Some of us in here really care about how many likes we get on our Facebook posts. And some of us really have a disturbing amount of energy invested in our snap streaks, which only this side of the room knows what that is. Maybe a few of you do. Most of the youth know that when we go on retreat, what do? What's the first thing I do? I take their phones away. Late into the evening of our most recent Seekers retreat, one youth asked if they could have their phone back so that they could keep their snap streak going. I stared at them blankly. Naturally, I didn't give their phone back because the work of being on retreat, being reflective, might just be more important in that moment than your snap streak. On a side note, I did find out later that another youth on the retreat had arranged for someone else to keep their own streak going, knowing that I would take their phones away. We have some very clever youth. I'm also very predictable. This drive for instant gratification and the accumulation of things is connected to this cultural myth of the individual self, this sinful notion that we can do it all on our own, or that my needs are the most important needs to be met. Even now, a whole bunch of graduating seniors are feeling the pressure of what they will do with their life. They're already being forced to calculate what success looks like, to figure out what jobs will pay them enough to live, etc., etc. We've created this economic reality that thrives in the power of fulfilling the needs of the self. And for a long time, we haven't really stepped into our critical or reflective selves to ask if this is really the way that we want to lead our lives. We do it because our parents did it and our grandparents did it, and we figure so too shall our children. But oh, there are those moments, especially in seasons like Advent, when we have a sense that the lamb really can lay down with the wolf, that a small child really can teach us something about how we can reorient our expectations of ourselves and one another, that we can be the kind of people that say no more to the systems that oppress and perpetuate violence. I have a small child in my life that has fundamentally reshaped my worldview. She has prioritized for me what is most important. And she has forced me to critically and reflectively reevaluate the things I believe in, and more importantly, the values that I teach her. During what's left of this Advent season, how might you engage in a thoughtful and reflective way the values that define your world? Given the realities of the messy and complicated world that we live in, our own social context, how can we insert our own quiet poem of peace and transformation to a world that so desperately needs it? Amen.